Public School Board, August 17th, 2017. Please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell.
Present.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Present.
Mr. Gould.
Here.
Mr. Hubbard.
Here.
Ms. Jones. Here. Mrs. Hall. Ms. Hughes.
Here. Next, we will have approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Second. It's been moved by Dr. Campbell and seconded by Ms. Hall, Ms. Jones, that we approve the agenda as presented. Ready for the no discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes. Now, if you all stand for the invocation and pledge.
Father, we thank you for this day, a day that we've never seen before and a day that we'll never see again. And we thank you for this opportunity for us to come together and to discuss the business of DPS. Let us as a board make the right decisions for the betterment of all that attend and work for Danville Public Schools. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have approval of the minutes from the August 3rd, 2017 meetings.
Madam Chair, I move we approve. Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Campbell and seconded by Mr. Gould that we approve the minutes from the August 3rd meetings. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Ms. Jones. Yes. Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes. Next, we have the consent item, the tuition application report. As presented, has everyone had a chance to look over that?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the tuition application report as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Hubbard, that we approve the tuition application report. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Gould.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes. Next, we'll have a recognition of city council members and the Ministerial Alliance by Dr. Campbell.
I want to say that we were so excited about many of the individuals that supported us the first day of school. And it wasn't just the Ministerial Alliance, but it was men from all over the city who were very concerned about kids in DPS. And I don't see many of them here tonight. Many of them told me, Dr. Jones, that they were not able to be here. But if there are any of those of you that attended and helped for all of the schools, certainly we'd like for you to stand. Many of them, again, told me that they were not able to be here, but for every school there was some representation, and I think Hubbard was at a couple of schools. I will say this, and I hope it, that you will understand my heart. We went over to Schoolfield, and it's the first time that as we were greeting the students and telling them to have a wonderful year. It's the first time I've ever seen a principal directing the traffic. I'm not calling the names, but he's wearing a blue tie. And so, for those that may be listening, and if you hear this sometime or watch this program, thank all of, not just the Ministerial Alliance, but all of the men that participated the first day of school. And we appreciate it, and we felt your heart. We know that you're concerned about the betterment of DPS. So thank you so very much, and we certainly look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. Now it's time for public comments. Ms. Petty.
There's no one signed up.
So
I'll be
there's.
glad to read it still.
Is there anyone who did not sign up for the public comments but wishes to speak at this time? All right. Thank you very much. Next, we move to, I believe, instructional highlights. Dr. Andrews.
Take a page from Ms. Dunn's idea last year about highlighting some of our unsung heroes. So this year I hope to bring students, teachers, parents, community members. But I wanted to start off this year with some of our behind-the-scene most unsung heroes, and that is our administrators. We're going to start with our youngest principal at Grove Park and Northside Preschool, Ms. Rhonda Wright. E.A. Gibson, elementary principal, Dr. J. Jones, and Ms. Darlene Logan, his assistant principal. Forest Hills Elementary principal, Dr. JoBeth Clark. G.L.H. Johnson Elementary principal, Thomas Tackus, and assistant principal, Larry Toomer. Park Avenue Elementary principal, Sandy Mitchell, assistant principal, Alicia Hightower. Schofield Elementary and current traffic cop, Principal Everett Johnson.
That's the way he was doing it.
And Assistant Principal Pam Adams. Woodbury Hills Elementary Principal Wayne Mayo. Instructional Facilitator Mildred Richardson. Middle School O.T. Bonner. Principal Timothy Sadler. Associate Principal Kim Agner, and James Kirkpatrick. Westwood Middle School, Principal Deborah Kinsey, Associate Principal Randall Stokes, and Assistant Principal Lynn Crotterfield. Galileo Magnet High School, Principal Angela Ramsey. George Washington High School, Principal William J. Lancaster. Assistant Principal Robert Dalton. Assistant Principal Kim Fortney. Sherry Garland. And Carolyn Stevens. W.W. Moore Juvenile Detention Home, Rick Waringo. Coordinator of Alternative Programming, Adult Ed and Teen GED, Daphne Wall. Coordinator of Career and Technical Education, Ms. Joyce Culley. And last but not least, Coordinator of ESL, which is now Language Instruction Educational Program, so that's a mouthful, Ms. Anna Fulton. Thank you. I will next time. Again, could I have all our administrators stand?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, we move to an action item under Human Resources, our personnel recommendations. Dr. Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. Before I move to the personnel recommendations, I just want to say how very proud we are of our administrators. And if they behave well, I hired them. If they don't, Dr. Jones did. But we're very excited about our year and our administrators, and we've gotten off to a terrific start. Looking at our personnel recommendations, we have 2 pages. One was out there for you on Board Docs on Monday, and the other came on yesterday as we continue to try to fill vacancies. As you take a look at the cases, I will point out 3 because a board member called me about these, and I thought perhaps the rest of you might have questions as well. The cases are 07, 13, and 16. You'll see under effective date a particular note for each of these. These individuals did leave us. They didn't return this year. They did leave us without giving proper notice. And proper notice is a letter of resignation, given at least a 2-week notice, et cetera, and so forth, so that that can be acted on by our school board. So that's what that is about. In the case with the 07, that individual did not sign and return a contract, but she just left. We heard she was leaving, but she never informed us officially. The same with the case ending in 13. We heard he was leaving, but he never officially told us. The case ending in 16 is a situation, and I know Dr. Haynes remembers these. When you get your packets in the spring with the election of professional staff, you see some people with an asterisk by their names. These are folks who either need to work on a license or they're pending retirement or whatnot. This person had intended to return to us, even called to ask us for her contract, but we did not issue one because her license was expiring on June 30th of 2017, and it actually did. So again, because she was on continuing contract, though, she still needed to have submitted a letter of resignation in a timely fashion. Unless you have questions, I will stop and respectfully request your approval.
Madam Chair, I move we approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Campbell and seconded by Dr. Paul Hamus that we accept the recommendations of the Human Resources Department, personnel recommendations. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes. Thank you. Next, we move to action items under operations. The energy performance contracting. Dr. Osborne?
You heard from Kathy Cox with Train at the August 3rd work session about the need to engage a financial advisor to assist us with both issuing the RFP for performance contracting financing as well as subsequent decisions once we receive the proposals. At the same time, I told you that most school divisions use the same financial advisor used by their municipality, and we would prefer to do so as well. Davenport and Company is used by the city of Danville. Dr. Jones and I participated in a conference call with Joe Mason, Vice President of Davenport, yesterday. Mr. Mason shared with us what he and his team had done with respect to performance contracting financing in other places. He said they were very familiar with the required specifics of seeking financing for performance contracting projects, to include developing the RFP, the request for proposals, reviewing options for both Virginia Saves and traditional financing, negotiating with lending agencies, and assisting with final decisions and loan closure. We would like to move forward with Davenport and Company as our financial advisor. The fee they typically charge for these services falls between $35,000 and $55,000, depending upon the size of the project, the number of responses received to the request for proposals, and the length of the negotiation process. At this time, we are recommending Davenport and Company as our financial advisor to assist us with necessary funding for our energy performance contract, with a maximum of $55,000 as their fee for their services. And the fee is traditionally paid out of loan proceeds. I will tell you that we will not move forward with a contract that they present to us that's in excess of $55,000 before coming to the board with approval. We asked, and I followed up the conference call yesterday with an email today, could they give us any more specificity? And they indicated they could not at this point because that was the first time of contact with them yesterday. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about this before you make a decision as to whether we can move forward with this contract with Davenport and Company.
Dr. Osborne, can you go over again the range, 35 to 55?
It is, yes, the range is for their services in entirety. And I guess the span, the 35 to 55, the 20,000, depends on the scope of the work. They will do our research for the request for proposals. Because they've done a number before, they pretty much know step 1, step 2, step 3. What they don't know at this point is how many proposals they will receive, how long it will take them to review those proposals, how much time they will have to spend negotiating on our behalf, whether Virginia Saves, which Ms. Cox talked with you about last time, whether that will be involved or not. So that is the reason for the range of services and the cost.
Dr. Osborne, for me, you mentioned that if they went over the 55, that you would proceed with the contract unless you come back before the board.
Yes.
What reasons would it be? I guess it would be the same reasoning if they were beyond 50, because they're giving us a range of 35 to 55.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like there's still a possibility that it could be more than that. Is that because of for the same reasons of the?
It would be, for example, they didn't say this. I'm giving this number out of the hat, as it were, the proverbial hat. Let's just say that typically this process generates five responses to their request for proposal. And their fee, the 35 to 55, the 5 responses, and their review of the responses and working with their school division falls within that time. Well, they get 45 from us. And it could be that we could easily, without them having to do a lot of work, get rid of 15 of them because their terms would not be favorable to us based on the other number. So, but I would not, the maximum that we would commit to would be no more than 55,000.
Dr. Osborne, you said that this was a vice president of the company.
Yes.
Is that individual located in Richmond?
He is.
Okay.
He actually is.
So will there be any involvement if we proceed with that company with their local branch office?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. But the headquarters office has to approve these kinds of arrangements.
This is correct.
Okay.
And
So,
excuse me.
I'm sorry, the reason I was asking about the local office is that my hunch is the local branch of Davenport would know a lot more detail of what kinds of lending agencies might be interested in this neck of the woods. Richmond, you know, they're pretty far away.
This is true, and that would assist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it would, and just practically thinking, there might not be as many lending agencies here or branches of lending agencies as in Loudon, for example.
True.
Those kinds of things.
Any other questions for Dr. Osborne? This is an action item.
I move we approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Campbell and seconded by Mr. Hubbard that we authorize Dr. Osborne to proceed with the energy performance contracting for our financial agent being Davenport. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gould,
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next for action items under instruction, our textbook budget. Ms. Katia Green.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, and Dr. Jones. You have for your review and approval the proposed 2017-18 textbook budget. In accordance with the Virginia Department of Education textbook review and approval schedule, Danville Public Schools will be engaged in a review and adoption process for both history and mathematics this year. Per its timeline, VDOE will post a list of approved textbooks with prices and information from the textbook publisher, certifications, and agreements on its website in March. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have relative to proposed textbook budget, to the relative proposed budget for the 2017-2018 school year, and I respectfully request your approval.
Are there any questions for Ms. Green?
If I may.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, this past year, the folks in Richmond at the Department of Education didn't follow through with their normal procedure on providing a list of approved books in a certain category. But I don't recall the details. Could you refresh our memory on what happened and whether that might happen again?
Gladly. The projected timeline was for history to be adopted or approved and adopted last spring 2017. However, I'm not sure if it was due to budget cuts or downsizing within their departments. It was actually delayed until this spring of 2018, which in case means that we'll actually have 2 adoptions rather than 1 major adoption in 1 year. So it throws our timeline off completely. It also means that potentially that during the next school year, we may very well also have English and science within the same year, but of course we'll have to wait for further guidance from VDOE.
And so the funding that we had in last year's textbook account for the potential history adoption is still there,
Yes, it's still there.
plus enough to handle the mathematics.
Yes, and so that's why we've been very fruitful with the money as far as making sure that when there are requests regarding textbooks, particularly with the history and the math, that we aren't purchasing additional books, but rather looking to see what we have available in our inventory already. Because of course we'll be going through a new adoption and the curriculum might not be aligned with those textbooks.
Very good, thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for Ms. Green? This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the 2017-18 textbook budget.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Campbell and seconded by
Moved by Paul Hamus.
Dr. Paul Hamus.
Second by Campbell.
Oh, move by.
I yielded to Stephen Gould.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Very kind.
That we adopt the 2017-2018 textbook budget. Dr. Paul Hamus, Mr. Gould. Okay. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Paul Hamus,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Gould,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Green. Next, we have an action item by the superintendent, Dr. Jones.
Yes, you have in your packet a resume for assistant principal at GLH Johnson Elementary School. I know there are a couple of you that had questions, and I don't know that I've had an opportunity to answer those questions, so I'm not sure if you want to discuss this later or not, but you have the resume in front of you. Dr. Jennings, I don't know if you have anything you want to add about this particular candidate.
I was one who talked to Dr. Jones about a couple of questions I had, and so I did speak briefly with Dr. Jennings before the meeting started this evening, and she has satisfied my possible concerns based on stuff I wasn't certain about. So I think we're good.
Well, then, my recommendation is that we appoint.
Case number, is there a case number?
There is no case number.
Okay, don't need a case number? Okay. I see, so we do not need a case number, we can just, okay.
We go with the title.
Okay, so, if there's no more, this is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the recommendation for the assistant principal at GLH Johnson Elementary School.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Paul Hamus and seconded by Dr. Campbell that we approve the administrative appointment for the assistant principal at GLH Johnson Elementary School. Is there any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes. Next are action items by the school board to approve proposed policy revision. First of all, P7130, policy manual revision timeline. You've had a chance to review the new proposed timeline for the policy reviews, different sections. Are there any questions? Is everyone in agreement with the timeline as presented? It is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the proposed revisions to policy 7130.00 regarding policy manual revisions.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Hubbard, that we approve the policy manual revision schedule. Please call the roll.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes. Next, we have proposed policy deletion, P7210, on the work session. Any discussion, questions about that? It is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the proposed deletion of policy 7210.10 regarding work sessions.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Ms. Jones, that we delete policy 7210.10 on work sessions. Please call the roll.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes. Next, we have a proposal to delete policy, section 7000, policy board governance and operations, board remembrance for hospitalization or family death, to remove this policy. If there's no question, discussion, please call the roll. Yes, Dr. Paul Hamus.
I have a question, and I think it's because I missed the meeting where this was discussed earlier. I'm not quite sure why it's being proposed for deletion. I realize that at times it has been awkward for the chairman and for staff. I guess what I really want to know is, how will we handle future situations if we don't have such a policy?
Well, based on when we went to our meeting back in May, it's not a governance policy. And the suggestion that came from VSBA is we don't need such a policy. If, as a board, if you decide that you want to do something for someone, then you decide among yourselves, but they didn't feel we needed a policy to force us to do that. And that's why we've had much discussion on this.
Okay.
This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the proposed deletion of policy 7220.00 regarding board remembrance for hospitalization or family death.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Ms. Jones, that we delete policy P 7220.00, board remembrance for hospitalization and family death. If there's no further discussion, please call the roll.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer, do you have any comments?
I don't have any comments.
Dr. Jones?
Just a few brief comments. I want to thank, I'm going to ask all our principals and coordinators and administrators to stand once again. It has been an exceptionally smooth opening, and that's not what's remarkable. What's remarkable is that 7 days in, it's still exceptionally smooth. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're still smiling. I hope you'll get some rest this coming weekend, because I know this work never gets easy, but I really want to commend you for your leadership and your dedication to our families. There's just a good feeling in our city about the culture and climate and the opportunity to really enhance learning in our schools, and that's the direct result of everything you do every day. So I'm humbled by your leadership. That's all I have.
Ms. Jones?
I echo what Dr. Jones has just said, thanking all the administrators for all that they do on a daily basis, even when school or the kids are not in session. I rode by a couple of schools and you're still there. Also, thank all those who came out for the opening day of school. It started out as a man thing, I think, is what Dr. Campbell wanted to happen, but it turned into a community thing.
Right.
So just thank everyone, and I'm glad you're back.
Mr. Hubbard?
Good evening. I'd like to echo what Ms. Jones and Dr. Jones said. To the unsung heroes, I applaud you all. And, Mr. Tackers, I have a bone to pick with you later, because we were at Johnson, a little girl was dropped off, and she said, "This is not my school." And she began to cry. And I wanted to run. Because that's a tough thing to do. So I'm picking on you, Mr. Tackers. Our wonderful mayor swooped in to assist us. So the work that you do every day, you're not really unsung heroes. It goes on behind the scenes. So I applaud you and I thank you for the work that you do all during the school year and all summer long. I had an opportunity to sit in with Mr. Lancaster just to see what really goes on in the planning of each day and each week. So it's not an easy job. So it's one that, again, I applaud you for the work you do. I trust that things will still continue to go well throughout the school year. I hope to see a lot of you throughout the school year. That's all I have.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
I want to echo my colleagues' positive sentiments about the opening of school this year. It's been amazing. I've had no comments that I, in past years, have typically received. And in fact, Mr. Hubbard's mention of the young girl who was upset that first day when she thought she was at the wrong school. That's the first even slightly negative thing I've heard about the beginning of this school year in Danville Public Schools. So, as my colleagues have said, we thank every one of you administrators and all of the classroom teachers and the bus drivers and the cafeteria and the custodial and everybody for the wonderful things that they are doing to get things off to a good, smooth start so we can focus on learning. The other thing I want to mention this evening is relative to this coming Monday, the 21st of August, 2017, a historic event over which I know the Central Office Administration struggled with various possible approaches to how to ensure the safety of the children and our staff, while recognizing that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity as well. And so my word to parents and to teachers and everybody, just over and over and over, emphasize to these children, there is no time Monday afternoon that it's safe to look at that sun. I know that there is a particular minute and a half that is the closest will be to totality, but here in Danville, Virginia, it's only 91 to 92% of a total eclipse. And that remaining 8 or 9% could do lasting damage to the eyes. So please, every family, every neighborhood, every church, every classroom, emphasize to the kids, do not look directly at that sun. It could be really bad news. But I hope they will also take advantage of learning something about our solar system that's made possible by this event that we have. Thank you.
Did you need to point something out, Ms. Hughes?
Well, yes. Is it my turn? Is it my turn?
Did you want to wait until it was your turn, or do you want?
I can do it now if you want.
Okay.
Well, I noticed that we have another administrator, last but not least, who has joined us tonight, Ms. Carolyn Stevens. So everyone say hello, wave.
She was working.
Okay. Somehow I knew that Ms. Stevens was working. She was on the job. Thank you very much. We just wanted to recognize you too, Ms. Stevens. Thank you.
Mr. Gould?
I want to echo my colleagues' sentiments in thanking everyone who's played a part in such a smooth opening of our schools this school year, both inside and outside the buildings. It's a great thing that we've got going, and we want to keep it going. With the rest of my comments tonight, I want to take a moment of personal privilege of sorts. At each of these meetings, we have an opportunity to provide comments and to share whatever may be on our minds. And to this point, during my tenure on the board, just a little over 3 years, my comments, to the best of my recollection, have always centered on matters that are occurring in Danville Public Schools or that are directly, or on events that are directly tied to our school system. In other words, I haven't talked about events that occur outside of our system or our city. But based on the events of the past weekend in Charlottesville, I feel compelled to depart from that practice. And I want to be clear, I'm speaking for myself and not for the board here, but simply put, I was horrified by what we all saw Friday night and Saturday. White supremacists, neo-Nazis, and other unrepentant racists descended on Charlottesville with the singular goal of spreading terror 2 hours north of us. More important than the labels that we attach to the individuals who were involved in this weekend's events is the recognition of the vile ideology that they represent. I want to be clear that free speech is a bedrock principle in our country, as is the right to peaceably assemble. But make no mistake, even though that speech may be protected, the ideology that was expressed and that was on display this weekend is contrary to the ideals of our country, of our commonwealth, of our city, and of our school system. too many times in our history, particularly in Virginia and particularly in this region, people of goodwill and good conscience have remained quiet when bigotry and intolerance have reared their ugly heads. As elected officials in this community, and particularly as elected officials charged with overseeing the education of this community's children, I believe it is incumbent upon us, and I believe it is imperative that we state in a clear voice that we reject this hatred that is so antithetical to what we stand for. In this city, we teach our children to respect others, to love one another, that violence is never the answer, and that hate has no place here. Our fight for justice and for equality is far from done, and it requires that we recognize the mistakes of our collective past so that we do not repeat them in our shared future. When it comes to such intolerance and hatred as what we saw, there can be no equivocation, and there can be no countenancing of terror. We are strong because of our diversity, because of our appreciation of and our respect for other cultures and religions and perspectives, all of which contribute to the beautiful fabric of our nation and our community. But hatred and bigotry have no place here, and we must make it clear that they never will. Thank you.
Dr. Campbell?
In regard to the first day of school, I certainly would be remiss if I did not also share that city council members were there on site, and so I want to thank city council for participating in the first day of school. I had the opportunity to be at Gibson yesterday, and I intentionally wanted to get there when school closed. And I will tell you, it takes teamwork. Most of the time, maybe members, we may go during the school time, but to see how smooth that transaction took place with all of the different buses and persons having to line up to get on various buses, I was impressed. And I want to share with you, it takes teamwork. There is no I in team, and so just want to let you all know that many times we talk about the negative piece, but it takes a whole lot of teamwork for those kids and for the teachers to partnership to make sure that our kids are safe. On another note, and I appreciate what you said, Stephen Gould, but I want to talk about, for just a second, I had the opportunity to attend the funeral Saturday. Renee Adams, 16-year-old young lady who was killed. And if a 16-year-old who would have been an upcoming senior, if that doesn't touch your heart, then we have a serious problem in Danville, because I am convinced that a parent should not have to bury a child. It's out of order. Children should have to bury their parents, if anything. And to have gone to that celebration and to see so many young people there crying and wishing that she was still here. I hope that for every citizen that we will try to just get along and recognize that I am my brother's keeper, and that we should do everything within our power to make Danville better than this, because we are better than this. I really believe that we're better than this. And to have had the opportunity to see this young lady's dead, gone, I hope that for every one of us, to me, it's not about black or white, it's about wrong and right. And it takes every one of us to echo that message, because we all live here, and we do not want this kind of activity to be happening in the city of Danville. And so I hope that for every person, whatever you can do to talk to a child, talk to an adult. Let's do all that we can, that we will not have this kind of situation. I think right now, with 9 homicides this year, that's absolutely too many. And I think this past week, we've had 2 shootings. I remember when I was in school, I mean, we would fight, and the next hour we would shoot basketball. It is not that way now. It's not about just fighting, it's about killing. And so, let's all do whatever we can do. Pastors, leaders, whoever you can touch. Let's do all we can to touch not only the kids, but also the parents. My mother used to say this, and I'll close on this. She used to say a long time ago, together we stand, divided we fall. She changed it. She said, together we stand, divided we are stuck. And so let's do all we can to make Danville the very best city to live in. Thank you so very much, Madam Chair.
Ms. Hughes?
I echo all the sentiments of my colleagues, and to the administrators, to all the teachers in Danville Public Schools, I encourage you, behind the words of Dr. Campbell, do not grow weary in well-doing, because we know that what you do every day will affect children, whether you see the results right away or not. But any seed that you can plant is one that's well planted, and it's worth your time. Thank you very much for all the things that you do, and the way you lead your schools, and the positive role models that you present, and the love that you show our children and your faculty every day. I just want to say that I have been engaging in a new endeavor as school board chair now. I get to sign contracts. And I was just so excited that I almost got writer's cramp when signing contracts the other day. And I get psyched when I get a text message, we've got contracts for you to sign. It is so awesome. And I really appreciate all the people who have decided to come and work in Danville Public Schools, teach in Danville VA. And if there's anything that the school board can do that we're not already in the process of doing, please feel free to let us know. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Hubbard, that we adjourn. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamas?
Yes.
Mr. Gould?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.